Let's talk about rhythm, shall we, in your life. Now, my background is a musician, and so I naturally think of rhythm when I was teaching people and still conduct choirs evenings and weekends. I'm always banging on about rhythm. And what does that mean? Well, it's really about having a shape to time, if you will. And that is something that's very, very important for productivity in life and in business. So today, now that I'm surrounded by a beautiful garden here and talking about seasons, and seasonality is very much on my mind, let's discuss rhythm and how that affects your use of time, a sort of organic, if you will, way of using your time and managing your time. Stay tuned. Hi, this is Michael Veazey, and today I'm coming to you from our lovely garden, I think it's lovely anyway, in Hertfordshire. So about a year ago, in May 2023, I was sent up by my wife to go find ourselves somewhere more peaceful to live. We were in a flat in London, a bit noisy, very urban, not really relaxing, and we wanted a house and we wanted a garden, and we've got them. And a garden, of course, is a thing that really makes you think about seasonality. And today I want to talk about rhythms in your business, and we can start with seasonality and the overall shape of each year as a very, very good start. Now, it's not rocket science to say that quite a few businesses or ways of making a living have strong seasonality. So the two that I'm most familiar with, my old profession of teaching and making music, I still conduct choirs in the evenings and weekends and love doing so, and e-commerce. They both have very, very strong sort of seasonality to them. Some jobs, I guess, you just grind along, same old, week to week, and then you have your couple of weeks off in the summer and that's it. That is not the case for education or e-commerce. So in education, my wife's still working right now, very, very hard in the summer because lots of institutions have exams. So A-level students are having exams. My wife's off playing the piano for music colleges in London, where people are playing very difficult music for their end of year exams. E-commerce is no different. So in e-commerce, of course, if you sell something that's giftable, you will find that it becomes crazy in Q4. In other words, November and December, really just before Christmas, or the holiday season, if you wish to call it that. And of course, that changes everything about your year. And so that's the first thing to say, is the rhythm of your year and of your week and of your day is really to some extent dictated by others. And to the extent that you recognize that, you get in sync with your market and the way things operate in your industry, then you will find that things work better. If you try and fight it or just ignore it, that's one of the signs that things are wrong. So one of the things that is really important is if you do have a strong Q4 centric business. And by the way, I know a lot of people who are earlier stage or even pre-revenue entrepreneurs. I don't tend to work with those anymore, but they're obsessed with the idea that they can even out the sales and the cash flow and the inventory and everything and have a non-seasonal type business. But the truth is that the businesses that I know that do really well embrace the seasonality and roll with it. They understand that that is the nature of the market they're in. And rather than trying to go in 3 and 4 different markets that magically balance each other out, in theory, one could have that. But in practice, I don't actually see that. I see people who successfully manage the seasonality. So I think you have to roll with the rhythms of your industry, of your marketplace, of the category you're selling on if you're on Amazon. And so that's the first thing, accept seasonality and things get easier. And then you have to really accept all the implications of that. So if you sell a lot of stuff in Q4, well, first of all, you're going to be working really, really hard in Q4. So you won't be available for much other stuff. I've stopped, for example, years ago trying to run mastermind meetings in December because guess what? Amazon sellers are not available in December. Equally, the opposite is that you've got to get some time for yourself. And what's the point of working hard to build a business if your personal lifestyle sucks forever? I mean, at a certain point, you work very, very hard for minimal income or none. But at some point, you've got to have a payoff and your family will expect it. So August is also a terrible time to try and have meetings for the 10K Collective because everyone's on holiday, quite rightly and understandably. And January is a time when people, have to recover from the crazy excesses of Christmas and the run up to Christmas, or the run up to Q4, if you want to call it the holiday season as the Americans call it. I acknowledge there are many different religions in the world that have different seasons as well, but I think Christmas is probably the driver behind most of the big sales. I'm not saying that means most people are Christian or that they should be, but anyway, holiday season, if you want to call it that, Christmas as I would call it, that's a big driver of your personal activity and your team's activity if you have one. What else? Well, of course, there is a rhythm to ordering stock. If you're going to sell physical goods, you have to order the physical goods. And that turns out you need to look a great deal further back than most people do. Most people think about Christmas in September, maybe October, and that is way too late. The serious players that I know in the industry who've been members of my mastermind, the ones who've gone on to 8 figures or what have you, they generally will be ordering, or even high 7-figure sellers, they generally are ordering in March or April for Q4 stock, so to sell in August, October, November, December. So you need to see that coming. And there's a sort of planning rhythm that goes before you order stock. So you've got to be thinking about where you're going to sell in Christmas 2025, for example, probably by the end of 2024. So there's an annual planning rhythm. So let's review. So we've got an activity rhythm, you and your team, if you have one. You've got the selling rhythm that sort of dictates that. And then the selling rhythm dictates your activity rhythm. Then the selling rhythm also dictates the ordering rhythm, and the ordering rhythm, or the when you put your orders in, dictates the planning. Of course, when you buy stock, you're exchanging your cash, your company's cash, for inventory, and then when you sell it, you're exchanging inventory for cash. Hopefully, more cash. That's called profit, right? So then you've got to think about the cash flow rhythm as well. And so this is all big picture thinking, and it's sort of, there's nothing clever or scientific about this, but it's just reminding you that there is a rhythm to your year, and that you need to it's quite organic, and it's dictated from outside. So don't get too clever. When you plan and you do create spreadsheets or precise marketing calendars or ordering calendars, or you're communicating with your suppliers, anything like that, you start from the commonsensical and start from the data, of course, but after a while, and this is the difference perhaps between rhythm and data, is that rhythm is a musician's response to, or an organic animal level response to events. That you have an intuitive understanding of what the shape of the year is, as well as a data driven one. And if you see data and you see money flowing out of your account in, say, August because you've ordered a lot of stock in order to sell in November, then try to internalize that into a model of your business yourself, so that you understand that there's a downward spike in the cash, and when that comes, and to see that coming and prepare for it. So that's it, really. It's a simple but powerful, and really, I would say it's more than a powerful concept. It is a force that exists. Rhythm exists in the world. The seasonal rhythm is one rhythm. You can either ignore it and fall victim to it, or you can try and fight it and really have a hard time, or you can understand it and work with it. And that's the successful businesses. There are rhythms also in the broader multi-year rhythms in product type categories that become popular and then die. I think of faxes, for example. Somebody mentioned faxes the other day, bearing in mind it's 2024, because they were talking about sales tax. One of my guests, Jared Smithson, was saying you have to fax certain things, documents, to certain states in America. And that's so jarring, isn't it? It's like, fax, that's a 1990s thing. So if you're selling fax machines, it's 1960, you can't sell them because nobody else has one. And it's one of those network effect things like phones. Everyone needs to have one for it to become more valuable. If you're doing it in 1990, it's at its peak. If you're doing it in now, then it's a kind of joke, right? So products have their cycles as well over more multiple years. Marketplaces have their cycles. The economy has cycles as well. So recognizing where you are in these bigger cycles is also really, really important. But starting with your year is not a bad unit. A year is a biological unit. It's an astronomical unit, in fact, isn't it? It's dictated by the Earth going around the sun, which dictates the biological seasons and is linked with our calendars. So, without getting too clever, it's a given by the universe, and you can't fight it. And it turns out it shows up in the markets, and thus it will show up in your business and your life. So embrace that. Make your plans, if they're on an intellectual level, based on a common sense, robust feel for the rhythms of your marketplace, and you will be on a firm foundation. Thanks for listening. If you are considering acquiring an e-commerce business and you are not so familiar with the e-commerce markets, you could get some help from me, as I've done for a couple of my clients recently. It's quite a growing part of my consulting business, which is that I can have a look at an e-commerce business from you from really two perspectives and see if it would make sense for you to buy the thing before you get to the point of even putting in an LOI or letter of intent or heads of terms, depending which side of the pond you're on. And really, that would be the commercial due diligence and some basic financial areas. Now, the legal side I don't cover myself, and I'm not an accountant, nor do I play one on the internet, but the basic financials of it, nevertheless, still tell you a bit of a tale, as I hope today illustrates. And then what I can also do is look at the market you're considering going into, look at the demand, look at the competition, and evaluate really, is this a growing market? Is this competition manageable? Does the business have a solid grasp on the market or even a dominance of the market that would make it a more attractive proposition? So if you want some help with that, just go to myamazonaudits.com. That's myamazonaudit.com, and I will be happy to give you half an hour of my time for free to look at that. And if you send me some documents, I'll even spend a bit of time having a quick look at the financials and a quick look at the market on Amazon as well, to give you a good early steer of whether you should consider buying the business or not. Obviously, if you own a business of your own already on Amazon, I can give you similar feedback as well. It may be with a view to selling it potentially. I tend to act on behalf of people buying, not by those selling, but the same insights apply in both cases. Thank you so much for listening, and speak to you soon.